Hey everybody, welcome to DB with Filmmakers. My name is Dylan Black, and today we have a very special guest, Durrell Nelson. He is a filmmaker. He's done movies like Texas Rain, and as well works with the Liberty University Cinematic Arts Program. Thank you for being on the show today, Mr. Nelson, which is what I would call him because he was my professor.
My pleasure. It's a joy to be here.
Some context. You were my professor back in a few years ago, and you still teach there. What was one thing that made you want to get into teaching film?
Well, I had never been part of academia. Everything I learned in the industry, I started after I left Tennessee and went to New York City. And academia was never on my radar. It just so happened that once my wife and I left LA and moved to Virginia, we found out there was an opportunity for me to work at Liberty. Mainly, it just feels like I'm working with filmmakers. And to me, being around filmmakers so far most of my life, it's just fun. I don't find the drudgery or any of that a lot of other schools or a lot of other places would have.
It's different than most film schools, right? Where, from what I've been hearing, the cycles program that we have is different, where you're kind of letting them go off on their own, right? And then
what's really great about it is the students who come into the film program have to get out of the way all the gen eds. So junior and senior year, they are actually diving in like drinking out of a water hose, and we're teaching them camera, we're teaching them screenwriting, we're going over sound design. I mean, it's full on. And some of them are daunted by in the beginning because they think, oh, they're going to have a little bit more free time. They don't. But the unique thing about this, and in fact, right off the bat too, we throw them into cycle projects. So we put 5 or 6 of them together, and we say, there's a camera, go at it. There's a sound, do all this, and put them together to actually jump in, and they rotate. So who is the director will then rotate to producer and all the way around the idea. And so we're doing that with several students for the entire time for the first semester. And then we're having them already be writing their thesis film that they're going to eventually make in their senior years. So they're pretty buried, but it's being thrown in there in a way that it's a lot of fun. I'd have to say it's better than any master program out there anywhere. And more emphasis is put on letting them go, letting them just learn, teach them, and then let them go. And that's been, I think, the thriving part of it, that they get to have that opportunity.
But that's one point I wanted to talk to you about, particularly when you mentioned letting them go. Because today I wanted to talk to you about mentality that film has as a whole, right? Which they are someone who's either coming back from like a PTSD war event, They're like always tired, they have war stories after war stories, And it seems to be like some kind of terrible toxic X for people being in film. And just like how you, in particular, I just have a memory because you were my professor, always just like ending every email with "always the best day ever," which is just like something that you're like you carry with you when you look at it. You pass it over, but you're like think about it again. You're like, oh, you know what? It is important for that. So how do you keep that like? First off, why do you think film has that level of that toxic mentality?
I'll just pick it up from when I left Tennessee and moved to New York City to spend 4 years in New York City, to really become an actor. And then I eventually became a stuntman as well, and then left and headed out to LA. But when I landed in New York City, I think what I tell students is they have to have the mentality that no one really wants you. There's plenty of people. There's no need, and I didn't roll in. I mean, I had blonde hair, blue hair. I mean, blonde hair, blue eyes. I had the look, so I mean that was sort of helpful. But I wasn't, some strikingly handsome guy. And I remember going to my first interview at an agency where I had my little portfolio of things I'd done, and they wouldn't even let me in the door. They just gently opened the door in this big building in New York City, and they took my little portfolio. And they came back, literally the guy came back in less than a minute, handed it to me and says, go back to Memphis, Tennessee. You'll never work in this industry.
No way. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So if you talk about toxic, I'd say yes, it's definitely there. But I just feel like when you're going to do something, you need to do it. And
Hmm.
so my attitude is always just go to the next one and go to the
Hmm.
next one and go to the next one. And so, yeah, had a couple of months that were kind of tough, not having a
Hmm.
lot of money to eat and stuff. And I found unique ways to find food and get food. But I was very blessed in the sense that I learned that downtown New York City, they have all these uh, uh, guys who are brokers and those kind of things, and they go to these restaurants slash bars
Hmm.
and they get free food because the restaurants want to put that food out for them because they're going to pay a lot of money. So I learned that I
Hmm.
could go up there and dress the part like an actor and I could eat and nobody cared. In fact, people would offer me a soda and I'm going like, sure, thank you. So I found there are ways you make a way, kind of thing. But
That's
yeah,
amazing. What was the most expensive meal? Like, was it ever like a
oh my gosh. I
steakhouse?
don't know. I didn't do it to an extreme. I just
Okay.
needed sustenance to survive. But within a very short time, I got my first movie. Within the 6 months I was there, I got my
Hmm.
first movie. I booked a lot of commercials. One of the first
Hmm.
ones I booked was a Jeep commercial,
Hmm.
and I ended up being the stunt driver and the actor in the commercial. And that one job, I made over $40,000 on a 1 day work.
That's
And
beautiful.
so, you
Wow.
have to realize people are going to say, go back home, quit,
Hmm.
give up. But I believe that there's something that's really important that you feel even possibly that God has driven you to it or asking you to do it or leading you to it. I can see where what you're talking about, the toxic, can make some students or some filmmakers, young filmmakers, just go into it and they get slammed by somebody with
Hmm.
a bad attitude or whatever. And yes, I have seen some really, have trouble with that. At the
Hmm.
same time, I believe we have to say best day ever because truly every day to get a chance to wake up and go make a movie or do anything in the film business that's like next to impossible to get into,
Yeah.
glory to God. It's just incredible. And so I try to tell them, don't go. When you graduate, don't just go out there with your resume and try to talk to people. Go actually knock on doors, go to the studios, get to know people, build relationships, and
Mm.
that pays off down the road.
Do you feel
And your
like?
fellow your
Oh,
fellow filmmakers too.
yeah.
The more you kind of grow with them and
Mm.
work with them, and not making it just about yourself, I think that also opens a ton of doors.
I think that's a good point with what you just said there about making it about yourself, because that is ultimately what we're trying to do, is tell stories for other people and
Yeah.
hear talk so other people can listen. Half of the problem, I think, is maybe thinking about it singularly, where it's like,
Hmm.
this next person is my ticket in. That's the only option, and this is how I become the main character. We also need to realize the other. With students that you see, how much is it like warning? How much is it like stoking that fire? Like the balance there.
I tell them truthfully. I'm very honest with them. I tell them my
Mm.
failures. I tell them about the things I ran across. I tell them about my walk with Jesus, how it sort of fell apart during one section of my life,
Mm.
and what God did to pull me out of that.
Any kind of job, you always have that like level of people who are talking, they're complaining because they're kind of complainers, they're that kind of personality. So it does maybe just happen to exist in anywhere, in the
Yeah,
greatest job in the world.
I mean, they're
Hmm.
coming in. I mean, I probably did the same thing when I was their age. I mean, they're not that old when they come in the
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's just a growth factor and learning
Hmm.
how to get along with others. And I think that's one of the key elements to the program that we have at Liberty is in the Cinematic Arts Zachy Gordon Center is that we train them up and throw them into the sort of fire, so to speak, because we know they're going to get upset with each other. We
Hmm.
know they're going to start to push each other around, and not physically, but we know that somebody's going to get their feelings hurt. We
Yeah.
know, and part of that is the leather you got to have to
Mm.
get into the industry, to actually be able to take it, let it go, don't fight it, keep a smile, and keep working. Because
Hmm.
if you the option is then you don't get hired.
When you think about like film, you know, I think about it in like a profession of like a contractor, where someone is working every single day to be there, and if they, unless you're union, which is like that's a different thing, but you know, if you're working every day to earn your spot, that means that your pressure is put on yourself, and there's no breaks, there's no stopping, and you don't have that luxury of like, you know, what you're bringing to it, which is like reflection, you know, introspection, thinking outside, again, outside of yourself and outside of your situation, you know. And maybe that kind of ties back into what we're talking about, which is that toxic mentality where, you know, because you're working there for 12 to 16 hours a day, like you're not having that moment, and yeah, everything's going to be bad because your maybe viewer is a little bit dusty, it's a little bit jaded, you know.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about what you're saying, the matching part that you're talking about with the cycles and everything. Did you find that there was ever a point where you had to like step in and with like maybe a conflict or something?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually my very first cohort
Mm-hmm.
that I had come in the program had two guys who just did not get along, and they almost punched each other. I was able to just get between them and stop them.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, they both became really cool guys, and they were really fun to be around. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they are now. I mean, that's been a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen that, and mostly, I mean, that's just guys being guys.
It
I've never
is.
seen the girls get into anything serious.
Those are two types of filmmakers. One who's just an indie filmmaker who's going to be doing their own thing in the kind of the crazy landscape of the Wild West, which is indie film. And then the studio people. Is it tough with students who want to be in one world versus the other, with then being like, you don't know
Well,
what AI is going to do?
yeah, they're going to have to learn the world, and they're going to have to learn how to accept what we have. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, it's so new, the AI, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to creep up and it's going to do what it does. It doesn't stop what we do as filmmakers because you
Mm-hmm.
still have to learn the tools, and you
Mm-hmm.
still have to be able to go put a camera on a stand and
Mm-hmm.
start filming. You have to never stop having fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself not having fun, then maybe you need to find another job and do something else. Because my wife and I are always thinking and writing. We're constantly writing
Mm-hmm.
projects. So that's part of what helps us continue to stay in the game as well. With
Mm-hmm.
the projects we write, the projects we either get to produce or we have someone else join us in the production. And I don't want my students to have the fear of like, oh my goodness, everybody's leaving, because I hear this all the time and it's not
Mm-hmm.
positive.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody leaves LA, it becomes a West Coast, East Coast kind of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
overseas. Well, if I want to go do it, I'll go overseas. I'll
Mm-hmm.
find a way. Filmmakers, young filmmakers have to go, I'm going to go where there's work. Before you do that, get on your knees and actually ask God where He wants you to go, and be willing to go the place that may not be where you want to go in the beginning, but you need to be open to it.
Well, I think it's true too, because I think like Albert Einstein said something about how like the world is like a puzzle, you know, every problem has a solution. And
Yeah.
if you that's a mentality which is goes into what we're talking about,
Yeah.
where you can't just say it's not binary. It's well, okay, maybe this isn't working here. What's another option, you know? Oh, all the films left Atlanta because of the tax credits. But then now Missouri has all these tax credits happening here, you know? Or like I have all these creative people around me. Let's go and make something on our own. Let's build our craft. Let's try to do something here.
And it's just, I mean, it's so random. My wife has worked twice now, last year and this year,
Mhm.
in Puerto Rico. and
Wow.
she wrote feature films,
Mm-hmm.
and she played the lead in this last one. I
For your projects that you did direct, being Texas Rain or some of the other projects as well, you're incorporating like these several elements at the same time. You're working with students, you're working with animals, you're working with all these other things. First off, what's that like? you know
I don't know. I guess I'm a family guy.
yeah.
We have 5 kids, so I guess so. I don't find it. I find it entertaining. I like
Mm-hmm.
we realize that probably every movie we've done, we've had children and
Mm-hmm.
animals,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't care. I mean, I know they
Mm-hmm.
can be a challenge, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid of it. And I think what can hold some people back is it's a fear before they even start.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of embracing it and going like, "Oh man, this can be fun. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
put our dog in the show, and we're going to do this." And you're already saying, "I'm ready to do it with this script, with
Yeah.
this idea. I'm ready to go." Sometimes you may have to step back and go, "Well, maybe I'm not really ready." If you're not someone who is ready to take on children and animals in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or content. I mean, we'll walk away from content that's not where we want to be
Mm-hmm.
anytime. There's no money you can throw at us that would make a certain kind of content be something we would be interested in. But
Okay.
everybody has to go and find that for themselves.
Yeah, their moral guidelines or the
Yeah,
moral truths that they follow, which
yeah.
is, I think that is different from, because we were just talking problem solution. Like, if you, I guess, feel it in your gut, or
Hmm.
if you feel it like when you're reading it, and yeah, that's not something you can solve, right?
I am very blessed. I know I'm sure there's a lot of other people who have voiced their feelings about how something was done and
Mm-hmm.
get frustrated and angry about it. I think probably because of the middle years of my uh, film business, life, um, because I had a huge change spiritually
Mm-hmm.
uh, that had a stunt that I got asked to do, and
Mm-hmm.
it went bad, and pretty much thought I was going to die.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I remember lying in bed at the after getting out of the hospital, and then I was supposed to do another part of the stunt the same day. As a Anyway,
Were
I
they
just started.
asking you back for that? For doing that after
Yeah, well, it
that
was all
happened?
part of one shoot. It was up in Bodega Bay. It was a Sony thing, and it was bike racing down as a picture that where all these guys are bike racing. It's an actual race that happens, in Bodega Bay and goes up and down. And I was one of the guys who steps in to do the
Mm-hmm.
stunt where the guy, the star, the he gets off the bike. I take the bike, and then I'm supposed to ride it off a cliff. The
Hmm.
skinny, those skinny tires, and and down below we set up pads and some cardboard boxes, and it's a fairly decent landing pad, but it was a long way down. And so I had to come off. The idea was I come off the bike and then I flip over and I land on my back on those pads.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's a little bit of sand along the street and the dirt, and that sand slowed me down just enough to keep me from actually hitting the boxes in the bag and everything else.
Oh
And
no.
landed on my back,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, it was not fun. And the guy, one of the cameramen up on the hill, he goes when he came over, he says, "Man," he said, I felt your body hit the ground." And of course,
Yeah, I did
yeah,
too.
they, they put me in the ambulance, and we went through
Yeah.
all that stuff. And then that night
Sheesh.
they brought me back to the hotel, and I knew as the next morning I was supposed to go do the other one, which is doing sort of the same thing, but this one would be a ramp that I go off and do the same thing, but I would have again no padding, no way to protect myself. No, that's just the way it is when you're doing a bike stunt. And I'd kind of gotten to be known for that because I had done quite a few bike stunts for soap operas and things like that. And anyway, so that night I just prayed, said, God, I will change my life. I will not do stupid things
Yeah.
like this for money or for whatever else. And
Wow.
I begged, pleaded, and the next morning I was woken up by the stunt coordinator, and he says, "Well, you can pack up. We're out of here." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, some bizarre storm just blew in, and they can't continue filming, and they're not going to come back to get that shot." Uh, so
Oh, what a
that day
relief.
changed my life.
Oh
I
my
continued to
gosh.
do stunts that I knew that I could do safely, but I was
Yeah.
getting a little too radical. I still, car stunts and fight scenes and all those kind of things I've, been doing for years. But
Yeah.
that was my wake up call to turn my life back.
Some people whose eyes are bigger than their stomach, that might be a conversation beforehand. I think I hear that there is like some more like process for thesis films, like going through the scripts more and everything. I don't know. That's what my friend
Yeah.
told me.
We have
Yeah.
to. A lot of things we're doing now with them
Mm-hmm.
is covering. How do you plan on doing this stunt? One
Mm-hmm.
guy was going to have a car catch on fire, and we're going like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
We're not in a position where you can catch a car on fire, and
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to protect that, and the
Mm-hmm.
explosive potential, and the people who could get burned just by splatter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have to stay on top of that. But
Yeah.
that you do as a filmmaker, you just do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a filmmaker who really believes in more than just the story and the action and everything else like that, you're actually following and making sure the stunt folks are doing well. If you got
Yes.
stunt players on the set, um, you want to take care of them. So
Yes. I think that's true. Like, I wish a lot of producers and directors would have kind of a voice like that, just to be like asking those questions, with that, like you see the sad part of it all the time. That's it. But then sometimes, rather it be like a change or some event happen, or like recently I was in pre-production and I had to do a whole change because of I learned some information. I'm trying to keep it vague there. And it put me kind of in a spiral, like, oh my goodness, how can I like come through this? Do you have any like advice for in the moment stuff, like when it's on set or anything like that you would want to talk about?
well, I mean, there's there have been times on some of our films where there's been a person who was supposed to be doing what they were supposed to be doing, and
Mm-hmm.
then were somewhat negligent, and
Mm,
they didn't want to tell anyone. They didn't want us to know, and that's not good. Obviously,
mm-hmm.
we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know what's happened so that we can correct it and keep the movie going, and
Mm-hmm.
not lose footage or whatever because someone is too nervous about telling someone or does not want to get
Mm,
called out. And I think as a director, producer, you have to be aware that there might be someone who's insecure or could just be a little bit arrogant. We've
mm-hmm.
had both. Some who just are arrogant, and we've had to let occasionally one or two go from the set. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, that doesn't happen that much.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them want to be there, and they're not just coming into it to make a be a problem. They actually want to do well so they can get the next gig,
Yeah.
and so I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just it's going to happen.
Do you
But
feel
they
like
grow up.
they grow up, you were saying? Or like
Eventually, they grow
event
up, and you might run into them again later and go, "Wow, okay,
Oh, no
that's
change.
great."
Yeah.
You see their change. After a
Yeah.
few years in the industry, you begin to they get it. So
Do you feel like it's my place to like sit down and just like talk about those sort of issues, Or is that something, is it better to keep it professional in that kind of sense?
well, sometimes as a director or producer, you're not getting the information until it's almost too late.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a chain of people to go, wait a minute, this just happened, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody's saying anything because nobody wants to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes, it's incumbent upon the producer or director to make a big decision on should this person stay on the set.
Mm-hmm.
If they're contrite, absolutely. I'll work with
Mm-hmm.
anybody. But if they've still got that sort of cool shucking around like there's somebody that should be, looked at a certain way, then no, I just say, here's your money, see you later.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not worth it. It also just becomes it stinks up the entire show when you have people who are doing that. So
Yeah.
you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody on all my shows when we get ready. It's the first day of filming. I get everybody together, all 60, 70 people, and I just tell them we are all equal. No
Hmm.
one is better than anybody else. Yeah, I'm directing, producing, but we're all the same. And so I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to. Just tell them there's nobody more important than anybody else here,
Mm.
and let's get that straight and start. Don't come in with an attitude that you're this much better because you got this title.
Yeah.
It's not true. That's not the kingdom of God.
Mm.
So I try to be really upfront with them and be very stern about that part of it. From my
Mm.
perspective, it's a way to make a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's important because that's where you get the best idea sometimes, where it can come from someone that's uncrafty or from
Yeah.
someone from a completely different world. Like that, the people like to make fun about things like DEI, right? But I think it's important to have several voices in your space because those bring their own history and bring their own importance,
Yeah.
and that's one thing with that's a great thing for Liberty because you bring all people in from places you would have no idea, that's the
Hmm.
beautiful part of it, right? And
Yeah.
film in general too. Film
Yeah.
brings out everybody, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're saying like it's basically for navigating it kind of take it as it comes, I suppose, like for
Hmm.
the person and the personality. So do you feel like there were a victory that you had or maybe that you saw in someone when that like maybe that positivity was reinforced or something in their minds?
Yeah. I mean, I see it all the time, especially
Yeah.
as they get into their senior year
Mm-hmm.
and they're really having to be put into the task of making their
Mm-hmm.
thesis film. They change. They
Mm-hmm.
become very unique, overstressed, a lot of times, really wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
The last two, semesters are pretty rough, but they have grown to a stature that when I see them, like the seniors that just graduated, so I've been around them probably for 4 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and to see them the way they carry themselves,
Mm.
the ones who've done well, stayed the course, had the good attitude, put Jesus first. I'm telling you, it's just a beautiful thing watching them come out on the night when we're giving the awards and they're having their showcase and watching their films and how they walk with their heads so high and just thrilled to be there and thrilled to have reached this point. It's a big deal. It's a tear-filled kind of deal. You know this. You were there. You
Well,
were there.
yes, but
So,
no. They didn't
but
do the awards.
but it's just a beautiful thing,
It
and to
is.
see the students go from maybe a shy or insecure place in their first 2 years, and then they get into the junior year and senior year, and they just are thriving. They're
Yeah.
truly adults,
Yeah.
which is great. And
Mm.
whatever age they are, they have reached that place. At least in the cinema program builds them
Yeah.
up and supports them, and they, yeah, I've rarely seen it not be that way.
Mm.
When they reach that final night, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I think there is something to be said about like I don't know what it would look like for having another type of college, career. I don't know if I could have another type of college career, inside of like the book learning and like inside of that kind of way. But I do
Right.
feel like there is like the before and after for me from the cinematic arts program, particularly, where I felt like I was way more ready to take on life after the fact because of the things you're talking about, the stress and the accomplishments. And I mean, also because it was like an experience that you probably would never match, with any
Mm.
personal project that you would have. Like,
Well, you
you know,
yourself, I mean,
mm-hmm.
you had your project. What
Mm-hmm.
about Barry, right? That's the title of it?
What's left of Barry? Yes.
What's left of Betty?
Yes.
What's left of Barry? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even that, you took on a project that you had to go through for those years of work there in
Yeah.
the program.
Yeah.
And it's a great character. It's a great setup. You have such a strong um, working character in him, and the
Mm-hmm.
whole his wife thing and the situation that he has to go through and the
Mm-hmm.
challenges of life and the fears and doubts and thinking he's unworthy. There's
Mm-hmm.
just so much potential and rich um, um, texture in the sense of humanity. That's what it
Wow.
is. It's sort of the human element, and you
Mm-hmm.
nailed it with your
Oh.
script,
Well, thank you so much. I mean,
with your thesis film.
you were the a great person, a great reference to have for the project, and with that, like you saw from the beginning, which was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like a completely different story, and then it
Hmm.
changed, and eventually it became that, and also just like the the input you had with the editing too, with because the a lot of it you just got to give it to the actor Paul Stober, who will be on
Hmm.
the podcast in the next few weeks, so that
Great.
the yeah, and how much
That's cool.
he brought to the role.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
did it, there's like so much to be said just about him and his work ethic, and
Yeah.
being a director isn't an exercise in control. It's an exercise in letting things go and letting things become other things,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
important
Beautiful.
lesson that
Well,
was.
yeah, well
Yeah.
said. That was good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're right on because
Hmm.
it isn't really just about being the director. It's about
Hmm.
what you're getting to create and
Hmm.
the experience of human nature,
Hmm.
and just watching that grow and change, and
Hmm.
suddenly you change with it.
You have any projects coming soon that you're working on?
We always feel like we are. I spent
Yeah.
a year working on a project that's about the Azusa Street revival from 1906,
Hmm.
and about how important that was to our world. And so I wrote that. Took about a year, given everything else I do in life, with a writing partner, friend of mine.
Hmm.
And so we now have some possibilities with that.
Hmm.
One company has even mentioned that they would like to get Denzel Washington on board with the project. So
Wow.
we don't know. Listen, it's always hurry up and wait. Then suddenly it's a flurry of activity.
Yeah.
So my wife and I both are continually writing and coming up with the ideas of the next films that we want to make.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's an ongoing joy.
Okay. It's a new thing to look forward to with that.
Yep.
What's it called again? I don't know if I know about that.
You probably wouldn't. The title
Mm.
is The Witness.
But it's about the some
The,
Adina
the
men's.
Azusa, the
Oh,
Azusa,
Zuzus.
yeah, the
Okay.
Azusa Street Revival
Uh-huh.
in 1906, right around the same time as the San Francisco earthquake.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, look it up.
Okay. I mean, that's a
Hopefully,
great
hopefully we'll have
foray
it on.
to watch.
Hopefully we'll have it on screen, and
Yeah.
then you'll see it, and you go, ah.
Is there something for filmmakers, maybe future students or filmmakers who are not doing the filmmaking, the film school world, any pieces of advice that you would want to give them before they take this next step?
No matter what you decide to do, know that things will change.
Mm-hmm.
Walk closely with the Lord so you can hear his voice. Listen to the Holy Spirit speaking to you and focus and dive in on what is in front of you. Usually, most of the time, that's if it's honoring God, that's the thing that God has before you right now. And in a week or a year or 5 years, that may change. But he's going to continue to walk you as long as you're remembering to get on your knees occasionally and speak and listen, actually listen more than anything else. He will show you. And I have found that to be true with myself, my wife, my family, and a lot of people. Just it is the way it should be. That
Mm-hmm.
if we lean into what He has for us, He will give us a much better prize than we could ever imagine. And it's not always perfect. I mean, just think of David and the Bible and how much hardship he went through before and after his crazy journey. Just look to the Bible in the Old Testament. You'll see that
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have you're going to have struggles and things are going to happen. Just get up, just get
Mm-hmm.
up every day, go to the Lord in prayer, and kick the day off and go for it.
What would you say is something that is currently inspiring you today?
What's inspiring me today is that my son is getting married at the end of this week. So that's that. But other than that, I'm kind of inspired all the time, especially
Mm-hmm.
for writing and raising my family
Mm-hmm.
and making a movie. So I'm never like giving up.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not in my core.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to press on and try to live the best life possible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for so much for joining today on this little interview question talk thing. I hope for the best for this upcoming wedding you have going on that you
Thank
mentioned
you.
briefly. And otherwise, thank you everyone for watching today, and catch us next time with Paul Stober coming in on the podcast. Have a nice day.
Awesome. Take care. Best day ever.